Hi Friends is a podcast hosted by me, Dalyce Wilson, cannabis enthusiast and Black Indigenous artist. Join me each week as I use cannabis with guests. Hi Friends is all about providing a safe, judgment-free space for Black and Indigenous folks to have a meeting of the minds. Through these herbal chats, we will be learning and gaining new tools to have healthier, healing conversations in the moment. Thank you for tuning in, and happy smoking! Hi friends! Hi friends, this is Dalyce. Just checking in. I haven't uploaded any podcast episodes for maybe 2 weeks now, a couple weeks. I haven't had any guests, honestly. And I'm kind of at this reflection point, check-in point, to kind of see where I want the podcast to go and to see, about reaching out to new guests and moving this show forward a little bit. So instead of not putting anything out this week, I decided to just have a little sit down, check in, and catch everybody up on what might be going on in my life and the things that are kind of on my radar. And yeah, this probably won't be a very long one, but it's just, we'll see how it goes. Thank you for tuning in to Hi Friends. And for those who have been listening and watching the YouTube channel along the way, thank you so much. I really feel your support, and it's been cool to see how an idea of mine has manifested and who it's resonating with. So thank you again. I will start off with the diabetes check-in. I'm back on my insulin pump and Dexcom sensors. I have it in a new spot today. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about my diabetes life as well, because that's been a huge part in factoring in my productivity, honestly. So let's see, I'm just checking my pump now, and my blood sugar is 147. So that's what my pump says because it's talking to my sensor. For those of you who are not watching the YouTube channel, my insulin pump is a device that gives me insulin throughout the day and whenever my blood sugar is high or whenever I need to give myself insulin for a meal that I'm eating. So this is a device that you can see outside of my body, but it is attached to my body. And I don't mind. I would love to show those who are watching the YouTube portion what the site actually looks like, because I don't think I've ever done that before. So today, mine is on my butt. I don't know if you can see that. So this tube, this pump device, it's inserted here. And the way that you disconnect it, I squeeze the side and just pull it like that. So if I take a shower, go swimming, things like that, I usually disconnect it. And just as easily, flip it back in. So now that we're all very friendly and you've seen my bum, I want to talk a little bit about how the past few months have been going with my diabetes care. Before I jump into that, I am using a vape pen today. So this is THC. This is a sativa strain. I don't remember the strain. I threw away the boxes, recycled the boxes, so I don't remember. But I'm out of weed, actually. I'm out of grass. And so if you're watching and you're a supporter and you want to donate to my buying weed fund, that would be awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. PayPal in the link below. Okay, so take a little break for some cannabis. So the last few months, I want to let you know about what's been going on with my diabetes care. I moved to California. I moved back to California in November of 2021. No, 2020, sorry. I moved here in November of 2020. And I was uninsured here, but I was insured in Maryland where I had moved from. So my insurance was I was covered in Maryland, but not here in California for a couple of months. But then I ended the insurance in Maryland and got my health insurance through Medicaid, Medi-Cal, Medicaid, um, in February. So in February here in California, I was covered, right? And as a type 1 diabetic, we need a variety of specialist doctors. We need a primary care, of course, like everyone. We need an endocrinologist. An endocrinologist is a doctor who works with the immune system and hormones and like the endocrine system, things like that. So type 1 diabetics need to have an endocrinologist as a doctor because they're the ones who we work closely with about our carb ratios for how much insulin we need to take, for our pump supplies, prescriptions, all of that stuff, like think of if you had cancer, you would be working closely with an oncologist. So living with diabetes, I need to have an endocrinologist. And there's like foot doctors, eye doctors, a lot of people living with type 1 diabetes, it affects our visions and many other organs. Especially if you have blood glucose levels that are consistently out of range, or you have chapters, with high stress and things like that, your body will be the first to kind of get the blunt of those moments. So back in February, got covered, all that stuff. Took me ages to get an appointment with the primary care, the endo, things like that. But by March, I had seen a primary care, and by April, I had seen an endo. So there was like a stretch of time where I wasn't getting the prescriptions that I needed. And after my first doctor visit, after being covered by Medi-Cal here in California, I had asked for prescriptions for my Dexcom sensors. These are the sensors that when you insert them, they're like reading your blood glucose and sending that number to the insulin pump. So these are the two that talk to each other. With these working together, it means I don't have to prick my finger, and it means that there's a lot less work for me to do as someone living with type 1. There's a lot less for me to do when these two are working well together. But if either of these are missing, then there's, or I don't have access to either of these or one of these, then it's going to throw the whole system off about how I control my diabetes or manage it. So basically for 5 months, long story short, for 5 months, I was not able to get access to my sensors or my pump supplies or insulin. Insulin is what's in my insulin pump that I need to take every day to stay alive. So imagine the kind of like stress that does to someone when they don't know when they're going to get access to this. They don't know why doctors who have written prescriptions are not following through with my care to write the pre-authorization so that I can get the supplies. And there was just a lot of stress these past 5 months that I've been going through. And I don't want to say that all of that stress is gone, but it's been alleviated in the past couple of weeks with just real advocacy for myself, staying on the phone, calling numbers back, my insurance, the doctors, this facility, that, and filing claims, filing reports and things like that. But long story short, my diabetes care has been neglected by the system here in Maryland. This past week, I have switched my health insurance. So I'm waiting for that process to get the card in the mail, that paperwork, and then I'm going to have to go through all of this again to find a primary care, to find an endocrinologist, a new optometrist, and things like that who take that insurance. So it's been stressful and it's been hard. And, through all of this, I don't know if people have been noticing, but on my personal social media and even the Hi Friends Instagram account and things like that, I haven't been posting because it takes a lot of my energy to kind of focus on the other things that are happening in my life, my health being number one always. So I just wanted to kind of let you know about that, because also, I don't know if I've had interactions with people, everyone everyone is going through something. And so knowing what I'm going through and knowing what it's like living with a chronic illness for 22 years, I feel like I'm constantly bringing understanding into situations, and like this awareness that, ooh, you might be going through something. So I'm not going to take that personally. Maybe I'll bring it up, later when we both feel like we're healed a little bit. But yeah, so if I've come off as closed off, or if I've come off as like just not present and just, this and that, there's been stuff going on. So I just want to share that. And I'm open to speaking with anybody. If I have any friends living with type 1, or new friends, strangers, anyone who is going through anything, happy days, stressful days, they want advice, they want solidarity, reach out, DM me. We're all out here doing the best that we can, and it's been tiring for me. I mean, my income, my money, my access to working has been highly affected by the stress of trying to stay alive and fight for my life every day. So yeah, maybe I can do another podcast episode specifically on type 1 and just kind of that experience, and have more people with type 1 on. Yeah, if you have suggestions, let me know. Reach out. That's maybe something that we could talk about. Another thing that has been on my mind, I guess, the past couple of months is just like moon phases. I mean, not just these past couple of months. I'm always very into astrology and astronomy, and watching the moon and things like that, and the moon phases. And so I know we had a new moon on July 9th. I'm trying to think of what was going on for me internally, feelings, emotions around that time. I think I was still processing a lot of things, a lot of like interpersonal relationships, family relationships, but I felt around that time kind of like more inspiration for future projects and endeavors and connections and things like that. I know our next full moon is July 23rd. So if you're like me and you pay attention, July 23rd might be around that time on either side of that, before it or a little after. It might be bringing some energy into your life for, deep conversations, self-realizations. I mean, I have to do some research to see what specific traits that full moon will have, but I'm curious to see if that will affect, the luck in my life. I know some people don't believe in like luck and things like that, but I do believe in like energy and like smoother karmic energy and more like I believe in that. And so sometimes I would say I have like more lucky phases or abundant phases where things are just coming like easily, whether that's like money, food, adventure, weed, good blood sugars, like all, not good, in range blood sugars, things like that. Like yeah, but then sometimes I go through spells where like none of that is going on, and I'm just like, ooh, and I feel like I'm not having very good luck right now. I'm sorry, just taking a sip of water. But yeah, so just keep an eye out for these moon phases, I guess. And the next new moon is August 8th. And I know I have a diabetes meetup in LA on August 7th. So if any other type 1s are out there and you've seen, let me look up their Instagram. It's run by the two women who do You're Just My Type, I think. But it's in LA on August 7th. Yeah, so on Instagram, there's a page called You're Just My Type, and they connect people who are living with type 1 diabetes. And the meetup is August 7th, and I'm trying to see where it is. If you're in LA or on the West Coast, I'll look it up and I'll put the information below. But I'm going to that on the 7th, and then the new moon is the next day. So being around like new people and unfamiliar energy and things like that, I'm curious to see what kind of like magic unfolds in that way, especially people who would really understand that part of my life. Living with type 1, I connect more with people with type 1 online, so it's been slow going meeting more people in person. So diabetes, moon phases, upcoming diabetes meetup. What else? Um, Mental health. How's everyone's mental health doing? For me, like since I returned to the States from living in Thailand and the UK beforehand, returning to the States, it's been constant like upkeep with my mental health. You know what I mean? Just like there's some days where I just feel so overwhelmed, and America is stressful. It is not a chill place here. And um, I think some people might argue, well, it depends on where you live and this and that. You can't. Yeah, but even if I was in the middle of rural, like bumfuck nowhere, you know what I mean? I think there would still be this heaviness here in America of like needing to participate in capitalism, consumerism, the biased thoughts that are here that affect people's lives. Like I've told people before that the only time I've ever felt like real fear for my life and safety whilst traveling or whilst being in a country was here in America. This is the only place where I feel like just because I'm Black, just because I'm Indigenous, just because I'm an outspoken woman, because I, this and this, that someone could just shoot me or stab me or like, you know, and I never had that kind of fear when I was traveling and living abroad. Like some places that I lived, like me and housemates would leave the door unlocked or windows open or whatever. In Thailand, you can leave your bike parked on the street or whatever and like not worry about someone like stealing it. And just this like different societal like respect for each other. And not to say that I don't want to generalize and say like all of America has zero respect. No, but it's like it's very common here to make people feel very uncomfortable and unsafe. And so since coming back here, I've just kind of been I've been being more intentional with taking care of my mental health. So what does that mean? Living with diabetes is always going to affect my mental health. Just the thoughts that you have from the day to day, physically having low blood sugars, and then having depressive thoughts from that, things like that. Like these are side effects. So trying to get my blood sugars in range more, trying to incorporate exercise. This week I've been going on a walk. Like I went on 3 walks in the morning. So 3 days I went on walks in the morning, and that was a change, a shift. And I was like, okay, easy incorporation. And so I'm trying to, and I know I feel better after incorporating physical exercise into my life. It's better for my blood sugars, better for my body, better for, my mind and spirit. So doing things like that, learning to say no for certain hangouts or going out, and like trying not to hold on to that guilt of saying no. I mean, there's sometimes I really want to go out. I really want to hang out with you. I really want to be there. But just mentally, I can't. Or physically, like I'm tired because, I've been dealing with, this, and this. And I think if we all give ourselves permission to say no and have it be a guilt-free no, then I'm curious to see how that would start making little changes in other people's lives too. What I've noticed for me is it stopped putting pressure on me to like to show up when my cup wasn't full, like if I had a day and I'm like running around or doing a photo shoot and my blood sugars are like, yo-yoing, or I'm just really tired, and I'm not going to be bringing my best self to the table or to the hangout or whatever. When I'm in those states, like I know me, I know my body, and I would rather be able to show up for people when my cup is like more full, you know what I mean? So learning how to say no to things like that. I did have a therapist when I was on Medi-Cal, but like I said, this last week I switched health insurance to Molina under Medi-Cal, Molina. I heard many type 1 diabetics use this insurance. I'm hoping I have better luck with them. But since I switched, I don't know what that's going to mean for the therapist that I had. I only had one appointment with the therapist under the old health insurance I was under. Also, okay, maybe I should tell you, I was under a United Healthcare Community Plan, United Healthcare Community Plan under Medi-Cal. I would highly recommend not going with them if you are living with type 1 diabetes. And that's just from my personal experience. If you're having a great experience, that's awesome. You are very blessed. I'm excited for you. But 5 months with no supplies was unacceptable for me. And oh, I guess I should have explained how I survived 5 months without getting medical supplies. It was through mutual aid. It was through other people living with type 1 diabetes sending me supplies, mailing me insulin and Dexcom sensors. A couple people sent Dexcom sensors. So I had like maybe 20 days in there of this 5 months, 20, 30 days of not having to prick my finger and stuff. So that was really nice. Friends giving me insulin. I have a friend here in San Diego, Sophie. Thank you, Sophie. I love you so much. Friends who really saw that I needed and are continue to offer, how are you doing with your health insurance? Do you need some more supplies? Like I have some test strips. So for me, I love mutual aid. It has kept me alive and it's something that I'm paying forward. I don't have a whole lot of surplus of supplies, but of the things that I do, if people ask and need, like hit me up and I will, spread the word even, helping with spreading the word. So that was a backtrack side note. Mental health, what else? So with this new health insurance, I want to find a new therapist that I can work closely with. I'm specifically looking for a Black female, Black woman that I can share my experiences with. If I had a Black female type 1 diabetic counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, anyone, that would be incredible. But I think for now, just a Black female really works with the understanding of the life experiences that I'm going through. And yeah, I would really highly recommend everyone finding a therapist that you can speak to. Everyone needs a person that is there for them, to work with them, to create a sense of stable, committed growth. When you work with a therapist, they are there to help you gain more tools to kind of get your life to where you want it to be, and to unpack trauma, joys, behaviors, patterns, things from childhood, things from past relationships, things from past jobs. They really help you to unpack these things that we might easily want to sweep under the rug, because it's painful. Things that have changed our lives, they could be high joy or high pain, so my big suggestion is for everyone to get vulnerable. Look, Google, get online, see if your insurance covers a therapist that fits your needs for whatever you're working for. But also people living with type 1 diabetes, it is essential for us to have a support system in some form or another. But for me, I'm starting to really recognize that I need to probably find a counselor or therapist or something related to living with diabetes as well. Someone who's trained to talk about that, because it's been 22 years and it takes a toll on your mind, body, and spirit after, any time living with an illness. So I think that's kind of catching up with me now, in the sense of the diabetes burnout, the some days of really not wanting to take care of myself, but being in order to stay alive, you have to change your site, you have to, change your sensor so that you can be up to date with what your blood sugars are. If you're not doing this and you're on manual daily injections like shots and testing my blood sugar that way, then it's like you have to do that, So I get burned out. It would be nice to speak to someone in that way. I guess the last big update that I've been thinking about a lot. Sorry, I'm taking a little smoke break. I hope this program has been interesting for people. Sometimes I don't know what to talk about specifically, but I just love the idea of talking, just communication, and not just me talking, but I mean, I love having conversations, and speaking with people, and the guests that I've had, the Black guests that I've had, like, the diverse backgrounds of all the guests that I've had has really filled me with this, like, it's been therapeutic for me. So to all my guests and to all those supporters, I want to say thank you so much, because like I mentioned, I'm not currently seeing a therapist like weekly or like consistently the way that I would like to, because of this insurance thing. And I knew that that was going to be happening when I switched my insurance. And part of this podcast has been a way for me to get vulnerable, continue to be getting vulnerable, and to communicate with people, and to let them have a space to provide the space, hold the space for therapeutic talk, therapeutic chat, and it's been really therapeutic for me after all of my chats. I always just like, oh, like, ooh, it feels so good. And I'm always very stoned after each episode because I'm smoking so much with my guests. But even after that settles, and I'm waking up the next day, my process is just to kind of like journal what I was feeling, and to like sit and reflect on like the moments that stuck out with me with my guests and things like that. So yeah, to everyone who's still been supporting, thank you. It's been really therapeutic for me, for sure. My window's open right now, so if you hear some like banging in the neighborhood, or like drilling or whatever, they're doing some construction. So the last, I guess, little update that I will leave you with for this episode, and thank you for listening this long, for those listening to the podcast, and thank you for those watching who've been watching this long on YouTube. So in 1975, my grandfather, Kenneth Henry Reed, was killed by the LAPD. He was murdered. So he was my mom's father. So this is my maternal grandfather. And this is something that when I found out about, I remember, I think I must have been like in middle school is when I actually like learned about this and what happened based on what people were telling me, I remember being shocked and horribly upset that it was the police, that it was because of the police and racism, that I was unable to have a relationship with my grandfather in here in this earthly world, and he's been with me my whole life, like just I feel his energy. I've always had questions about him. I've always had questions about him and my grandmother's relationship. They met in high school and here in California, and they had my mom very young, and just learning about that. And but when he was murdered, there were newspapers that were out about him, but I've since found these newspapers, like the articles about what happened and things, and it doesn't sit well with me. I don't want to like dive into it too deep here, but it's just like I'm feeling that this is my calling to tell the story of my grandfather. If anyone is to die, you want the legacy that's left behind to be one that is of truth and is of justice. And I feel like his life was taken, and his legacy that was left behind was tarred by white society. So this is what I'm working on now, is doing more research. I'm I'm doing research. Some of you might know that I have a master's in fine art photography. So part of why I moved abroad and I was living in the UK was to get this master's degree in photography, and I have that. Um, and I don't have a master's degree in videography or cinematography or film work or directing or producing or anything like that. But what I have is a vision, and what I have is a calling to tell this story. So I want to make a documentary, and it's not that I want, I am making a documentary on my grandfather, Kenneth Henry Reed. Um, I feel like this will be something that once I tell this story, once I share what's been uncovered, once I allow for space to be held for people to be held accountable and for my family to heal and things like that, I think I will feel like I've really done something, and my thinking is that, when people stop talking about you after you pass away, after your body, your spirit leaves this realm, and people stop talking about you, I feel like that's when you truly die. You die twice: when your body, dies, and then once again when people stop saying your name. And so my my returning to America, my returning to California, the place that I was born, the place that my grandfather was born, returning here is like I want to keep his name alive, and I want to bring it back to life. I want to, Black Lives Matter wasn't around back in 1975. And, there were advocacy groups back then, of course, and civil rights groups, of course, but we are in a revolutionary state now where, possibilities are endless for using the tools of multimedia, using the tools of the written word, the spoken word, to share Black stories and to share our experiences. Like, yes, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain. I know that is here with my family and sharing of this story. But then there's also like joy and truth and love. And, without my grandfather, I wouldn't be here. My mom wouldn't be here. My brother wouldn't be here. My nieces and nephews wouldn't be here. So there's this deep ancestral tie and pull to represent my family and to show them love in ways that like I wasn't able to do in the physical world. And it's been awesome being able to feel the energy of my grandfather. I found his cemetery. I had never been to it before, but since returning back to America, I go every time I'm in LA. Um, I've been getting signs and symbols from like animals, spirit, things that are happening in my life that I know that I'm on the right path, that he is speaking with me through starting the documentary process and starting the research. It's healing my relationship with my grandmother because me and my mother and me and my grandmother, we didn't always have the closest relationships. We had chapters of rough patches. And I'm in this space now where I am no longer guards up. I am all just like raw, like love. Like I just want to show my family love and be there for them and be close. I want them to be able to depend on me, and I want to be able to depend on them and for us to be vulnerable and open. And I feel like my grandfather is bringing me closer to the people in my life that I needed to come closer to. So I really have been appreciating that journey. And I also know that I need help. I need help with this venture. It's hard for me. I'm a big believer in energy and trust. If if you're not feeling positive energy, or if you're not feeling safe energy, then for me, it's like almost impossible to have the trust go hand in hand. And so with working with a creative venture like this, you need you need help from a producer, directors, like cinematographers, those who have more experience than I have the fire, I have the will, and I have the story. I have the storytelling in me, you know, and I'm just trying to explore and listen to my body, listen to messages, ancestors, to see if I'm making the right decisions with, the approaches I'm taking. Um, so that all being said, that's part of the creative things that I'm doing, but that ties into the emotions as well. There's some days where I'll be driving to LA. So that's where all of this happened in Los Angeles. He was killed by the LAPD. So I live in San Diego now. I'm not in LA. I have to drive back and forth, um, to to continue on with this project. And my goal is to move to LA soon, hopefully soon. My goal, I'm working really hard right now to make as much money and security as I can so that I can relocate to LA and be based there for this film, for this documentary and the research, and also just to feel closer. Every time I go to LA, like my DNA, my body, like my spirit, I feel so close to my family there. And San Diego's nice, but I wasn't born here. So I'm uh, I'm trying to make that happen. But yeah, if anyone out there has heard any of this stuff, whether the talks about diabetes, or this documentary, or the astrological, talking about the moon phases and things like that, if any of that resonated, and if you are in a place where you feel like you can give assistance in the form of advice, a sounding board, ways to protect my energy going into this documentary process. I've been doing a lot more meditation, tarot, saging my space, smudging, things like that. But I'm feeling like sometimes, like, the things that I'm uncovering or people that I'm meeting, since living here in California, like, I do feel like I need to kind of like find new ways to protect and clear the energy, so that I can keep waking up and approaching projects and work fresh. Um, yeah, so, or I mean, also I'm still looking for guests. If you are able to and interested to be a guest on my show, if you are Black and Indigenous and cannabis enthusiasts, come on, join me. And I would love to speak with you. Also, no pressure. If you are a cannabis enthusiast but don't want to be seen smoking, I'm super open to compromising and making adjustments accordingly. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been really, really refreshing to be able to kind of catch up with everyone and let you know some of the stuff that I've been going through. Ooh, last thing. Okay, I'll leave you with one last thing. Yesterday, I went on a walk in the morning, and I was going through a park, and I was on a path, and there were 3 animals that crossed my path. And the funny thing is, I had been walking on this path and looking forward, and I had seen the 3 animals. I swear to you, they looked like they were having like a meeting of the minds, like 3 spirits: a chipmunk, a rabbit, and a crow. The chipmunk, the rabbit, and the crow, they were under a tree, and they were kind of like scurrying. Even the crow was like just on its legs, just like kind of like hopping around with it. And they were just kind of like, doing their thing. And I was like, that's interesting and a little unique. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And I kept walking. And then all of a sudden, the chipmunk stops and runs across my path. So this is to the left. They run to the left. And the rabbit runs to the left, goes under the bushes. And then the crow flies across and like hops back on its feet on the other side to the left. And that was like a really interesting moment, a sign and symbol. I felt like it was a pause for me. It was a moment of pause, and it was a moment for me to think about what I was feeling in that moment. And when I got home, I looked up, because I like to look up animal symbolism, or, gemstone symbolism, like what things represent and what they could help be telling you or helping with your life. So the chipmunk, I think, had a lot to do with like creativity and excitement. It was talking about how like childlike wonder, like whenever you see a chipmunk, you're all like, oh, like, you know, like you're never like, ooh, like afraid of, like, it's just like they're beautiful, they're cute, they're like, you know, so it's just kind of like that childlike wonder. Um, and also something about like, aren't chipmunks the one that have like they store things in their cheeks? So something about like storing and like sitting on something like, mm, I don't know. So that was something that I was like reading online, and I thought that was interesting. The rabbit, most people know about fertility and things like that. So when I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, interesting." I am 29, and you know, we do start thinking about different phases of life. Um, the bunny was brown, so it wasn't like a white rabbit or anything like that. It was brown, and um, it also talks, when I looked it up online, I'm trying to remember because I looked all this up yesterday. With rabbits, they represent, I think, like speed and agility. I think it was talking a lot about like ingenuity of like being fast on your feet with like the way that you think as well, which is something that I've not always like awarded myself or like claimed for myself, but just like kind of like seeing those two animals there, I was just like, huh, there's more to unpack with that. I think rabbits were also seen as like, you know, good luck and abundance and prosperity. Oh yeah, abundance, because they like, if they do have kids, don't they have like many, many, many? Yeah. And then the crow. So a lot of people know that on my personal, for my photography, it's Blackbird Multimedia. My Instagram is Blackbird Photo. So the blackbird means a lot to me, and the representation symbolism of that. So when I saw the crow, you know, I know crows are super intelligent. I know that also uh, they are like really tenacious as well. Like they I think they are the ones that can spot things. Like they can like find things and exactly like what they need to build their home, to feed their kids, you know, like they're the ones who like find like lots of trinkets, um maybe seemingly unvaluable items, and the crow will find a way to make it valuable to them, you know. Yeah. Then, so anyway, I just wanted to share that moment, and maybe suggest or offer to listeners and viewers, if things that seem a little unique, signs, symbols, even noises or phrases that you're hearing more often, if you're seeing butterflies, things like that, I'm I ask you to pay attention to it, to colors, to feelings, to who you thought about in those moments, you know? And yeah, you might be surprised. You can definitely have fun with it. Ooh, it's 11:11 right now. So I'm going to stop this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, friends.
And that's the show. I hope you liked it.